A little behind-the-scenes knowledge from my reviews here. As the episodes of Volume 5 have gotten progressively shorter, my reviews have gotten progressively longer. Let's see if we can change that with this one. Hey everybody out there in YouTube land, Jake of the OneManBand is back again, and welcome again to a RWBY Volume 5 review. This time we're taking a look at Episode 4 of Volume 5, Lighting the Fire. So this episode starts off with us going back to Yang and her perspective in this volume. Now, we haven't seen Yang in a couple episodes, since the first episode, and she left at least me with a bad taste in my mouth with how her story seemed to be going, but hopefully we get a little bit of insight on what she's actually going to be doing. We can see that she's still traveling with the toothless hooligan, as I took to calling him, and I made a special note that as he's riding on her bike, he's holding on to the back instead of like the passenger holding on to the driver, because like Yang was probably like, "You no touch me, you no touch me, man, you're gross." You see that hair of his? Disgusting. So that's mop hair. That's like what my hair gets when I don't, you know, get it cut. Speaking of which, I gotta get it cut soon. I don't want to end up looking like Toothless Hooligan. So the duo finally stop pretty much in the middle of nowhere as the bandit says that they're close and he's gonna go up ahead to make sure everything is clear. But Yang isn't having any of his bullcrap. She knows that this is a trap. She knows what's gonna go down, and so she takes some time to prepare herself. She takes off her riding gloves, her goggles, and her coat flaps, which is strange that she would take them off for a fight, but won't take them off when she's driving a motorcycle where they can get caught under the tires, leading to an accident and possible maiming. So, I guess the animators just didn't want to animate the coattails during a fight? I mean, that's the only reason I could see. And so, the Toothless Hooligan arrives back with 6 other buddies of his, all armed and all looking for revenge. He's gonna get revenge on what Yang did to him back at the gas station. They're gonna take her bike, and she's gonna take her lumps. Yang, again, is completely unimpressed. All that she asked is the location of the camp, which Toothless Hooligan gives quite easily. I mean, what's he gotta worry about? She's outnumbered. 7-1. I mean, what's it matter if she knows where the camp is? So he tells her, and then, well, oh well, the ass-kicking starts. And in the follow-up moments to the ass-kicking, we see that Yang is being completely no-nonsense, no jokes. She wants to get to the camp. She wants to get to Raven. She's not even joking about anything. That starry-eyed party girl that we had in the previous volumes seems to be gone. That starry-eyed, funny party girl that we had in the previous volumes seems to be gone. And that really makes me sad, because that's what I really liked about Yang's character, is that sometimes she didn't take things all that seriously. And although she maybe should have taken things a little bit more seriously in some conditions, I will give her that. This new 100% serious Yang is questionable to me. I don't know if I like it, and I don't know if I want it to change. But another change that's good for Yang is that not only does she have a new robotic arm, but that robotic arm also is a gun, because this is RWBY, of course, and it seems to take the place of the Ember Celica gauntlet that she lost at the Battle of Beacon. And so, she prepares for battle. And as I said back in my Yang character shirt review, this is where Yang's fighting style truly shines, when she's fighting human opponents. And this is a fight that does not disappoint. She wipes the floor with these bandits, pretty much treating them like they're just, you know, disrespectful children, and she's just beating the crap out of them, teaching them a lesson. They don't really even harm her at all. She's able to dodge attacks, take people out as they come up to her, and whenever they actually shoot at her with their guns, she's able to block it with her new robotic arm, which I personally find really cool. Now she actually has a standing defense against ranged combatants rather than just trying to dodge or taking the blows. Now she can actively deflect and block them. However, on the bandit side, why the hell are you shooting at her robotic hand when you have seen that it can deflect your shots? There's literally 75% of her body not covered by robotic arm. She does this and hides behind it. She covers a majority of her face and head and part of her chest. Shoot her in the legs, for Pete's sake! You're supposed to be bandits! You're supposed to be good at this shit! But, I mean, if that did happen, then I guess Yang would have been taken out of the fight probably all too easily. However, though, despite the complete incompetence of these bandits, Yang wipes the floor with them. And we actually see that maybe Yang has actually learned something from her time training with Tai Yang, and it wasn't just all put on for show or all for nothing. Instead of simply charging at Toothless Hooligan and taking him out with one giant punch, as he's preparing for an attack to hit her as she's charging, she instead zips over him and hits him from behind, taking him out. So it seems that her straightforward personality, while still in play, she's able to actively and consciously make changes in her strategy to, you know, make it so she doesn't get hit by so many things. So I actually really liked that. And like I said before, this is the type of fights where Yang's fighting style is going to shine. She is fighting human opponents that can easily be hurt and taken out by her CQC hand-to-hand combat. Something else to take note of, though. After the fight, once all the bandits are down and Yang is just settling in after the battle, kind of, you know, wrapping everything up, we see that her left hand is shaking, much like it was in the first episode after she punched Toothless Hooligan, before he was, you know, toothless, and he was just Hooligan. It seems that she has a sort of post-traumatic stress twitch whenever a battle has just ended. It doesn't seem to be there when a battle is about to start, but it seems to appear when she's nervous and after a battle. I kind of attune it to, it's something along the lines of Captain Miller's shake from Saving Private Ryan. If you've ever seen that movie, if you haven't, the main character played by Tom Hanks is the captain of this military unit who's sent out to find Private Ryan. And whenever he's about to go into battle and whenever he is not in battle, his hand twitches just like this, a lot like Yang. And when it doesn't twitch, that means a battle is going on. He even makes note of it in the movie, talking about how it just does that. And it's when it stops near the end of the film that he knows that the Germans are coming. So I believe that it's very much like a twitch like that. She's able to concentrate when she's in battle and it doesn't affect her. However, afterwards, it's like her body reminds her, oh yeah, we're scared. Yeah, we're shaking, we're scared. And she has to hold her hand in order to make it stop. I still think that that's still a sign that what happened in Volume 3 still is with her, still messes with her, and that is key if we're gonna get any good character development from Yang. And with Toothless Hooligan and all of his buddies beat up, Yang starts to walk towards the bandit camp. And Toothless Hooligan is just like, when Raven finds out, she's gonna just totally destroy you. And Yang's just like, no, probably not, because she's my mom. And we see the utter shock on his face to the point where he's even says, oh, I'm dead. I'm going to die because of my idiocy. Which, unfortunately, negates my theory that Toothless Hooligan knew who Yang was in her being Raven's daughter. Instead, it just seems that he wanted to get revenge on her because she punched him in the face and knocked out his tooth. Raven really needs to reconsider her bandits if they're this stupid. And if these bandits are this stupid, how have they been, you know, actively taking on settlements, killing Grimm, and surviving out in the wild? Well, I guess Raven and Vernal have been doing all the heavy lifting, while these guys just kind of, you know, fart around and probably drink all the booze. But the finale to Yang's story in this episode will have to wait, because now we head back over to Ranger and Oscar, as we see that they are having a sparring match. Much like Yang's fight, although a lot less coordinated and a lot less deadly, we see that RWBY and Oscar are having a sparring match with CQC fighting. And even though RWBY has had years of training under her belt, and although it's mentioned that Oscar is picking up on this really easily, which means that they probably have been going at it for at least a couple of days, Oscar still seems to have the upper hand in this hand-to-hand fight. And to be honest, I am not sure if I like this idea. I mean, showing Oscar off to being a competent fighter and a guy who picks up on training real easily is good, but it's not good for RWBY. Because, you see, although RWBY has had years of training under her belt, has been in battle before, and has at least had one training session with her sister in hand-to-hand combat, as seen in the Yang character short, RWBY still doesn't have the coordination to beat a literally green trainee. She can't beat him at all. He even gets the first hit on her and it's only when Oscar lets his guard down and apologizes to RWBY that she's able to get the upper hand and defeat him. So even though she does win the sparring match, I still think Oscar is a bit better trained at this point in hand-to-hand combat for RWBY. So RWBY still has a long way to go in hand-to-hand combat. Although I still believe that she should just train in a smaller weapon than Crescent Rose, but I'm not going to get into that again. I've already mentioned it probably 3 times already, and I don't need to mention it a 4th. However, through RWBY's punch, we learn that Oscar still hasn't learned on how to activate and control his aura. And although Ozpin had the power to activate Oscar's aura this whole time, and when Oscar asks why didn't he activate it, well, that's no proper way to train someone. They gotta take their lumps. They gotta know that when they've made a mistake, they made a mistake. And sometimes that means inflicting physical pain. However, Ozpin decides to take control of the situation, quite literally, and have Oscar sort of be an observer to what he's about to do. We see him activate Oscar's aura, which is green, you know, real fitting for Oscar. And Ozpin, you know, both of their primary colors are green. And then he proceeds to go into another sparring match with RWBY, and he completely wipes the floor with her. RWBY barely gets any form of hits in, and Ozpin comes out the victor. Now, what I really love about this scene is that not only is it a look into the training sessions that the Team Ranger and Oscar are having, but it's also a good exposition dump for aura and semblance. We have had exposition dumps on these two subjects before. However, we still come up with more questions about aura, more questions about semblances. I personally have been asked many times by people, what do you think an aura is? What do you think a semblance is? What do you think could be a semblance? What type of semblances do you think are too overpowered? I've had so many of these questions, and as I've answered them, my answers have progressed and have changed over the years. And so I like it when they give us more information about aura and semblances, because that helps us learn, that helps us figure out what we can and cannot do when creating OCs or trying to write stories or trying to figure out what the capabilities of an aura and semblance are. So we mostly get a recap with what an aura is and what it can do. Back in Volume 1, we learned that an aura is like a force field. It's a manifestation of a person's soul. Huntsmen can use it to enhance their bodies and help them out in battle. And it's here that we get a refresher where it talks about how an aura, when you first have to activate it, it takes deep concentration to figure out how to do it and how to activate it. And it takes a lot of time to get that deep concentration to second nature. So it takes a lot of time, meditation, and of course training in order to get someone's aura to peak physical condition. But once it is, people can use it to deflect blows and heal minor wounds. So not only is it a force field, but it's also kind of like a healing shield as well. And of course it can also be used to enhance people's physical abilities and to help them in battle, as we saw Lai Ren do back in Volume 1 when he was fighting the taijutsu. It allows people to, you know, jump great distances and to not hurt themselves when they fall from great distances. Essentially, an aura is a cross between a force field and the Force from Star Wars, if you will. And after a person's aura is awakened, then a semblance is next to come. And we get a quick rundown about what everyone's semblances is. Nora can create lightning that makes her stronger, Ruby's super fast, Ren can mask emotions, and we actually get it stated in the show that that is his semblance. So everybody who was making theories back in Volume 4 about what his semblance actually was, we did eventually figure it out that he's able to somehow mute the emotions in people so that the Grimm can't detect them, and here it is stated in show that he can mask emotions. And this leads into Jean, who doesn't have a semblance yet. He hasn't had a semblance since the very beginning. And, you know, they're kind of real pushing it, just like, hey, Jean's gonna figure out his semblances volume. Aren't you excited? And I'm still in the no, I'm not excited camp. It's been too long, it's been teased too many times, and I'm just over it right now. And although I've made theories about what his semblance is, and am probably gonna make theories about what his semblance is going to be, right now, I'm just not really excited for it. However, what I am excited for is figuring out what Oscar's semblance is going to be. Is it going to be similar to maybe Ozpin's semblance, which we never knew? Or is it going to be Ozpin's semblance? Over the years, as Ozpin is reincarnated, has his semblance remained the same, or has it changed with every single host? We're not exactly sure. I personally would think that it would change with every single host because the host is a different soul. It's a different person. And the manifestation of a person's soul, a person's personality, would create a different semblance. It's stated in this episode that semblances are very much tied to the personality of their user. Now, many people think that a semblance is very much, created from the personality of a person, while others believe that a person is influenced by what their semblance actually is. We've seen this in both cases. We've seen it with Pyrrha. Her semblance was magnetism, and that was very much akin to her personality. She was able to kind of attract people to her because of her great strength and skill. While on the other hand, Lai Ren became who he was because of his semblance. Before he got his semblance, he was a very energetic, open-wide, cry, excited kid. But once he got his semblance, he became the calm and collected ninja that we know him today. And there are others who think that there's no connection at all between a semblance and a personality. It's just simply there. I personally think the truth, of course, lies somewhere in between of everything. I still believe that a semblance is a manifestation of someone's personality. Now, whether that be someone's personality overall or someone's personality in a moment, which then influence a person's personality in the future, I believe that is the truth. A semblance is truly connected to someone's personality. And we also learn that people's semblances are activated during different times in their life. It's completely random when a semblance will actually activate. Ren's activated when he was put into great stress, while RWBY states that her semblance activated during a training match. And Nora's, I believe, is the most funny, because she states that she was simply struck by lightning and didn't die. It was a crazy Thursday, and I find it great because of that wordplay, because Thursday is a deviation from the ancient Norse week term of a day called Thor Day. And since Thor is the god of thunder in the Norse pantheon, it is also the influence for Nora. So is it coincidence that Nora was struck by lightning on a Thursday that was formerly Thor's Day, and Nora is influenced off of Thor? That is not a coincidence, that is funny writing. And with all this talk about semblances, Ozpin comes back into the conversation and states that semblances aren't simply just what they are. He hints that semblances pretty much have power levels, if you will. Different tiers of power. So if you continue to train and get better and work with your semblance, you're eventually going to get to a point where your semblance maybe will take on another trait, maybe it'll just become stronger, or maybe there'll be another new semblance altogether. However, let us remember that this is completely new information and we shouldn't run off with it quite yet. Let's just sit down and sort of chew on this new information about semblances that we've learned, and hopefully in a couple episodes we'll get some more information to work on. And final notes for this portion of the episode: holy crap! Oscar is a small boy. Look at how much Jean towers over this kid. Holy crap! After like analyzing how tall Jean is compared to how tall RWBY is and the angles of this shot, Oscar is like 5 foot, if that. He's like 4'11" at this point. I know he's only 14, but damn, is he short! Holy crap! And we now zip back to Yang's side of the story as she enters the bandit camp. And might I say that I get a very Fallout feel from this bandit camp. Like, this is where the fiends live, you know, the gangs of junkies that live out there in the waste. This is a very Fallout feel to me. And Yang's arrival of the camp draws a lot of attention from the local inhabitants. And while Yang's guards leave to go see what the hubbub is about, we see that Weiss is about to make her move. She summons her knight, and it looks like he starts to attack the bars to maybe cut a way out so that Weiss can make a stealthy escape. And my friends, we finally get the true reunion that we've all been waiting for. We get Yang finally meeting up with her mother. And might I say, Raven is a colossal bitch in this episode. She starts off this reconvening with her daughter that she has not seen in, well, ever since Volume 2, but legitimately hasn't seen in probably over 18 years. And she starts this off with meeting with, after all this time, you finally decide to visit? I don't know if Raven is trying to be funny here. Like, oh, yeah, I'm joking. You finally came to visit. But that shouldn't be how you greet your daughter like that. I mean, I would expect that from maybe Yang, and maybe that's where Yang gets it? Like, her sense of humor, but I would think her sense of humor probably came from her father. But, just with that one line, I can already tell, oh, it's gonna be one of those kind of conversations. Now, let it also be known that it seems that Raven is almost trying to butter Yang up. I get the distinct feeling in this scene that Raven is very much trying to maybe absorb Yang into her faction. Now that she's maybe observed Yang for such a long time, maybe she finally wants to bring her into the tribe, so to say. Because as Raven talks, she goes about congratulating Yang and flattering her to such great degrees, admiring her strength and her cunning for coming this far. But Yang is having none of it, and I'm glad that Yang is having none of it, because listening to Raven talk it just gives me a sour taste in the mouth that she's talking this way to her daughter after all this time. And it's just, that's your family you're talking to, you piece of crap person. And it's here that we learn Yang's true intention for coming to Raven's camp. She wants Raven to take her to RWBY. Now, me personally, I was a bit confused when that was stated. Judging by how everything was going in the episode 1, Yang was dead set on finding her mom. However, it's here that we see that, yes, she wanted to find her mom to take her to RWBY because of her mom's very special semblance. And it's here we finally learn what's the deal with Raven's freaking portals. Raven's semblance is her portals. She's able to create a portal when she bonds to somebody. When she bonds to them, she can create a portal that she can simply step through and be right there next to them. And she's created 3 of these. She's created one for Tai Yang, one for Yang, and one for Raven's brother, Crow. And since Yang has put 2 and 2 together, she knows that Crow is going to be looking after RWBY. And so, if Raven can create a portal to Crow, therefore, it will be a portal to RWBY. And let me be the first to say, yes, my friends, in the first episode, my assumptions for what Yang was doing were, in fact, I would say at least half wrong. She was still looking for her mother, but looking for her mother in order to find RWBY. So, my assumptions with Yang completely going off the deep end and just going to her mother and forgetting about her younger sister were, in fact, wrong. Now, that's just what everything was telling me. That's what episode 1 really showed us, is that she was going after Raven. But that was, of course, a misdirection by the writers. So, let me be the first to say, I was wrong in my assumptions. However, I will say I was at least half right, because she was going for her mom in order to get to RWBY. And so, due to this new development, Yang, I thus christen you back your big sister points. You're back in my good graces. And even though your personality at the beginning of this episode left a little bit to be desired, it's here at this point in the episode that a little bit of her previous personality starts to come back. And I love it! Now, before we move on, I just want to say, is it not just completely sad, the situation of the Bronwyn twins? Raven, who has the superpower, pretty much, to go to anyone she cares about in a moment's notice, wants to be left alone, and doesn't want anything to do with those people. While Crow, who wants to be an active part in people's lives, cannot be close to them because he brings misfortune. Let's just say it's very, very sad. So as the scene progresses, Raven simply asks why Yang believes that she will do this for her. To which Yang replies, because we're family. And it's just the way that she says it and the gesture she makes with her hands. This is the exact gesture she makes with her hands. That I'm just like, there it is! It's a little quip from Yang. Not exactly a pun, but it's a little quip that I actually like. Although she is telling the truth with, yes, we're family. That's because, that's why I want you to do this. She isn't demanding it. She's making a little joke out of it, which I like to see that. There's a little bit of comedy in there, especially from a character who used to be very, very funny and is now super, super serious. I'd like to see a little bit of more silly Yang, but not to the point of RWBY Chibi silly Yang. I don't want to talk about that. Not here. Not yet. And so Raven follows up this statement by simply almost saying to herself that family only comes around when they want something, almost alluding to something maybe happening in the past. I have heard people talk about maybe she's alluding to what Crow did back in Volume 4 when he and Raven had a conversation, but if you remember, it's Raven that went to him in the bar. She found him, bought him the drink, and told him to come up. It wasn't the other way around. I believe that there's something deeper going on with Raven to make her say something like that. Maybe something happened in the past with maybe her parents or with Crow and Tai Yang? But, I mean, who knows? Raven then proceeds to, once again, admire Yang's strength and determination. I love it how it was stated in previous volumes that Raven cares about nothing besides strength, and it's in this episode that she compliments Yang's strength so much, and she brings up strength a lot. It's really sticking with her character and sticking with her lookout on the world. However, Raven states that if Ruby is with Crow, she is already a lost cause, stating that Ozpin is not the person that you think he is, and that Raven once believed in Ozpin, but once she learned the truth, she no longer does. However, Yang doesn't care about any of that. She simply wants to find her sister and make sure that she's safe. And, well, Raven just refuses to help and is just like, no, I'm not doing that. Peace out, Girl Scout. Get her out of the camp. To which Yang then steeps back into her rage mode. Once again, she seems very volatile and quick to rage now, shifting into her red-eyed form with a simple use of words. And when the bandits in the area are just like, oh, you can't talk to our leader like that, demanding stuff and cursing at her, she's just like, she essentially says, come at me, bro, I'm ripped. To which the bandit obliges and, well, promptly gets his ass handed to him. However, his ass handing to him does reveal something else. A princess locked in a cage. And it is here that we get what I predicted and what I was hoping for, Weiss and Yang coming together. So now that Weiss knows that subtlety is out of the way and releasing herself stealthily will be a waste of time, she simply orders her monster to grow, and the White Knight grows to gigantic proportions, breaking her out of the cage, and Weiss then dashes to Yang's side. Now, I find it actually really cool that the construct that is Weiss's summon is, even though it has this ghostly feel and look to it, it is still very much physical and taking up physical space. It isn't a specter. It's an actual physical object that is summoned, probably completely constructed out of dust and or aura. And so Yang and Weiss trade a couple of comments, to which Weiss finds out that Raven is Yang's mom, and Yang finds out that Raven kidnapped Weiss. So it's a lot of names being thrown out and a lot of accusations being thrown out as well. And I just find it very funny that, wait, Weiss didn't know Raven was Yang's mom? I thought everyone did. Everyone in Team Ranger knows that. And I know that the possibility of Ruby and Crow telling Team Ranger all this information is, yes, there, but it still came to a shock to me back in episode 1 when Team Ranger knew that Raven was Yang's mom. It just was kind of out of nowhere, and it was just like, well, how do you guys know? So I'm glad that at least someone doesn't know that Raven is Yang's mom. And it almost looks like that Yang and Weiss are gonna make a break for it and get out of the camp, but they're promptly stopped by a lightning bolt. And Vernal simply shouting, enough. And she just is up in arms, battle ready, ready to take them out. And so now, anyone who was still doubting that she was the Spring Maiden, and yes, they were some of you out there, I think this pretty much confirms it, because that lightning came out of nowhere. And who have we seen that has the ability to control lightning pretty much out of nowhere? The Maidens. We saw Amber do it, and now we've pretty much seen Vernal do it. So, Weiss gets her weapon back, and Raven states that if they're gonna be leaving, and if they're gonna be going after Crow and Ozpin, that they're gonna have to know the truth. And I think that that was just a real out-of-nowhere sudden change of pace, but it is kind of explained why Raven would take this, this direction, because she states that with the state the camp was in a few seconds ago, the Grimm would be coming in droves. Once again, negative emotions attract the Grimm. So a lot of negative emotions stirring around in that camp would bring the Grimm, and then everyone would be screwed. So Raven shows off her leadership skills and the skill that she seems to be able to deduce and figure out the best way possible to get through something. She figures, look, we already weren't big on human trafficking. This Schnee girl is free now. There's really no way we can get through this. My daughter's here. She wants to just find Crow and get out of here. Let's just kill a whole bunch of birds with one stone. Look, I'll send you through the portal, but not before I tell you the truth about Ozpin and that whole situation. So I think that's actually really admirable for what Raven actually does. And so it looks like we're gonna have a little powwow meeting in the leader tent of the bandit camp. But not before Weiss throws her arms around Yang and just states that she has missed her so much. And we get this real tender moment that we finally get some members of Team RWBY finally coming back together after what happened in Volume 3. And I think having these two come together, who were probably two of the ones that were the most worse off at the end of Volume 3, with Weiss being forced to go back to Atlas, back into the clutches of her father, and Yang being completely, like, emotionally destroyed and losing an arm. I think them finally coming together and their friendship being rekindled in this moment, it's just a real touching moment, and I am just so glad that this moment happens. And it's just done perfectly with the music, the visuals, and how they talk to each other. The voice actresses did an amazing job with conveying the emotions that they needed. And to be honest, I'm actually real happy that it's Yang and Weiss who are together. Once again, we haven't seen a lot of those two interacting in the previous volumes. So now we're probably gonna have at least a few more episodes where it's at least one more episode where it's just them, and then maybe they're gonna reconvene with RWBY, and then things are really gonna get good when they're finally all together. The only odd one out is Blake. And, you know, I'm actually kind of sad about that. She's gonna be completely left out of the picture, and she's literally going to be the fourth wheel of this show then. Because all of our main girls are together, except her. It's kind of a pity. And with that, the episode ends. And let me say, it ended on a high note. It, once again, gave us some more screen time with Weiss, which I'm always happy for. But for me, it redeemed the Yang character and made me love Yang oh so much more. You get more big sister points. More big sister points, Yang. Because not only are you like a big sister to RWBY, but you also act like a surrogate big sister to the rest of your team. Therefore, Weiss. And I am really happy to see how Yang is going to interact now that she is a member of Team RWBY back with her. Is she going to sort of maybe start to transition back to her joking mode, but still keeping sort of a form of the seriousness that she now has? I definitely hope so. And more questions are left up in the air. What does Raven mean that she knew Ozpin and now she doesn't trust him, and anyone who trusts him is a fool? Is it simply that her and Crow just don't see eye to eye, and since Crow sees what the good that Ozpin is trying to do, Raven only concentrates on the bad that he has done? Or is Raven going to maybe fabricate some kind of story where it just makes out Ozpin to be this monster and he has no redeeming qualities, and she's gonna maybe corrupt Yang and Weiss's perception of him in some way? Because I think that would be actually a really cool development if Yang and Weiss sort of had this internal struggle with, like, can we really trust Ozpin anymore? I mean, what was he really trying to do? Are they going to believe Raven? And when they finally meet back up with RWBY, are they going to take Raven's word over Ruby and Crow's word? I think that will be a real cool development to see. And of course, the question still remains, what is going to be Oscar's semblance? Is he going to be able to activate his aura by the time the big battle arrives? Is Jean going to develop his semblance soon? What are going to be the next tiers of semblance power for the rest of the crew? Once again, lots of questions left up there, and I, for one, cannot wait for the next episode to figure out some stuff. But, you know, odds are we're gonna be seeing a lot of Blake in the next episode, since we didn't see her at all in this one. So I'm at least hoping that we get at least a little bit of time with everyone else. Hey everybody out there in YouTube land, thanks for watching this review. I hope that you enjoyed. Hopefully it was a little bit shorter than the previous ones I've been doing. So, I don't want to take up any more of your time, so be sure to like and favorite if you've enjoyed, subscribe if you feel inclined to. Check out some other videos that I've done. There's going to be links down in the description taking you to some playlists. And of course, my friends, I want you to be a good person, tip your waitresses, keep moving forward, and I'll see you guys next time I'm out there in YouTube land. I'll see you then. Yeah!